we're in this together. So that's the sentiment and the feeling that I'd really like everybody who watches this to remember. We are all in this together, and we're going to bring that love, compassion, kindness, and support to each other always. So I hope that you do benefit from this simple journey into Samadhi together. And we are live.
Are we really?
We are. What a joy.
How wonderful. Finally, we cracked the nut of...
We've got to thank multiple sponsors. We've got to thank Google. We've got to thank Microsoft. We've got to thank all these people that have contributed to this.
How wonderful.
A lot of humor.
I couldn't even see it. Oh, I'm delighted. Okay. Well, this is very exciting to be here. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to HeartMind Happy Hour. And I am your host, Holly Copeland. And in these conversations, I seek to unite ancient wisdom with modern science and explore consciousness and the mind and meditation by bringing on experts in health and wellness and the brain and neuroscience and meditation, like my wonderful guest, Stephen Altair, who is back today. I am so excited to have you, Stephen.
And I'm so excited to be here. What a joy and a thrill and an honor. So thank you, and love and blessings always.
Well, love and blessings to you too. Thank you so much. Well, we began this beautiful conversation. Actually, we've had a number of conversations. I think this might be your fourth time on. And we began this beautiful conversation a few weeks ago on consciousness and meditation in the mind. And we are back today to continue that conversation. Stephen led us in a beautiful meditation last week. And so I thought today we could dive a little bit more into that conversation and explore that a little more. I am getting some, just make sure I'm turning off some audio here. And I would be remiss in saying you are a writer and an author and a meditation teacher, and you do so many wonderful things to contribute. So,
well, the simplest thing we're going to do, stillness, because our topic today is very much on stillness and samadhi, and they go hand in hand. And we are going to share about that and share about ways on the path to access samadhi. And I think this will be a really wonderful sharing for everybody that comes here, because right at this moment, we need a new state for a new time. So we're all in this together. That's the part that I think is such a wonderful insight into what's happening in the world, is if you put everything aside, we are truly in all this. We're in this together. So that's the sentiment and the feeling that I'd really like everybody who watches this to remember. We are all in this together, and we're going to bring that love, compassion, kindness, and support to each other always. So I hope that you do benefit from this simple journey into samadhi together.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you. And we are indeed an unusual time. And I heard it recently described as the great pause. And contemplated that and did some writing around it. I'll have an article coming out soon about the great pause within. You know, there is this great pause without, and at the same time, we have this opportunity to reflect on what it means to have a pause within and where that can take us. And I hope that people watching can take some of what they learn here and inspire them to go within and inquire deeply into stillness and where it can lead. I would like to define some terms, because I think those terms, for not everybody is familiar with the term samadhi and shamatha that we'll talk about. So I would love some reflections on that from you when you start. I And I also want to, I guess I want to lead in by a quote and a concept. I was watching a beautiful film on YouTube today. God bless YouTube. Called Inner Worlds and Outer Worlds. And I highly recommend this series on all these topics on consciousness and the mind. And, you know, deeply, people have been pondering these topics for as long as there have been people, right?
Right.
And they said in this that meditation is the oldest form of neuroplasticity, which I thought was a wonderful insight. And they said through sustained attention, at the root level of consciousness, the wiring for an entirely different perception of reality is created. And that's certainly in the journey, my personal journey, that has been my experience. It feels like I'm rewiring my brain at the root level. So I guess I will leave you with that idea, and love to see where you take it.
Well, thank you, Holly. And rewiring our brain is very much pulling us straight into the state of stillness and samadhi. So samadhi, a new state for a new time. Now, no experience of samadhi like we are going to journey on together would be complete without us making a journey into stillness. And so that's actually what I'm going to guide you into first. And riding on those wings that Holly's presented us with, the wings of neuroplasticity and rewiring our brains, I'd like to say to you that we are truly in a new time. To begin this journey, so I'm going to share a very short meditation first. I'd like you to place your feet flat on the ground, wherever you are. If you're driving a car, maybe you need to listen or pull over. And if you're at home, if you're in a meditation posture like the lotus position, then you can stay in that. And otherwise, if you're sitting in a seat, place your feet flat on the ground. Place your hands gently in your lap. Let your attention be resting in your heart. Feel the spine straight, as if a string is pulling your head upwards towards the ceiling. And gently close your eyes. Samadhi, a new state for a new time. Do you notice the space? Do you notice the stillness? We cannot live from our old consciousness, from the old paradigm. It's time to stop reacting in fear and anxiety. We need to move to a new state, a state of love, a state of non-dual compassion, to live in a state of samadhi or absorption in that one state, love. Samadhi is often referred to as oneness or absorption. And later on, together, we will explore a variety of different ways of looking at samadhi. Now, in the silence and stillness, you're living in a very simple state of love and gratitude. And when we move from selfishness and fear to selflessness and love, the heart is activated in a way that triggers coherence and wholeness and creation. We wake up together. Right now we're on pause. We're on pause to create, to unite, to be simple, to bring love to our children, to learn together, to be on retreat. This pause is all about resting the mind in the heart. The mind resting in the heart is non-dual compassionate awareness. It's the wisdom of knowing I'm nothing. And it's the love of knowing that I'm everything. Because truly within you is the core of existence, life itself, the true self, source, God. And you don't have to do anything. That God state, the God realized self is within you. And it is already your true and natural state. Just drop all seeking. Turn inwards. Be quiet and still. Sacrifice your own ego mind to the one self that radiates from the heart. Everything that moves is bound to exhaust itself. But that which is still within is still always. Meditation moves us towards stillness, to become the core of existence. It's not something we do, because doing is movement. When you look at water, you can perceive many colors, but what you're perceiving is the surface. To taste the core of stillness, you taste the self-realized state. If you get to the end of your life tired, then you haven't tasted. If you do not know how to be still, then you haven't tasted. When you meditate in stillness, you know the true nature of all existence, the nature of who you truly are. So let us be still, together. Smile the inner Buddhist smile. Watch the space in front of you. Observe it. Witness it. Your awareness of the space and what it exposes to you, what it reflects back to you, is exactly what is being reflected back to you. Your consciousness. If it's confused, then that confusion arises in front of you now. And if it's clear and luminous, then that clarity and luminescence arises in front of you now. Whatever arises, stay as this pure awareness, this deep stillness, because at this point something powerfully changes. Stay awake, stay alert, stay aware. The sense of I am is firstborn, but awareness itself is unborn. Nothing affects awareness, and awareness is not a belief. You don't believe in awareness. You can only be awareness. Be awake. Be alert. Be aware. As you simply sit, silent and still. Let whatever arises in front of you, actions, interactions, reactions happen. Watch them, witness them within your awareness. You still have the sense of being present, even participating. But now there is a space and a distance, a detachment, a serenity. Serenity. Even in the presence of dynamic activity, there is a serenity, a natural stillness that doesn't participate, that remains untouched. Be the stillness. Be the awareness. Be the stillness. Be the awareness. Gradually the me, the mind, merges with this awareness. There's a melting that is happening. Both the mind and the awareness are like water. The self is like warm water. And the mind is like ice. And they merge. The warm water is not fighting the ice. The warm water is simply melting the ice. You cannot resist the melting. The melting happens. It's simply taking place. This is in response to you surrendering. Surrendering yourself to the truth of yourself. And where is that surrendering happening? In the heart. Where are you? Nowhere. What is here? Nothing. Emptiness. Stay with this awareness. In this emptiness there is a joy, a space, nameless, wordless, indescribable. You've discovered this space, spacious awareness. You are the witness. Allow yourself to witness the spaciousness as it arises within you through your own direct experience. Other things may arise in this spaciousness, turbulence or resistance, doubts or fears. You might fear losing your boundaries or fear the transformation that's happening within you. But these are momentary. There's nothing to fear. You are merely observing, watching. The witness, keeping your attention inside your heart. Stay in that, and stay as that. Be that. Be the space within the heart. Be the awareness within the heart. Be that. Stay as that. The spaciousness within the heart. The awareness within Now bring your awareness, attention, back to the space within you and all around you. Be aware of the silence, and the stillness and the spaciousness within you and all around you. Feel it. Feel that indescribable sense of liberation in spaciousness and in stillness. Gently open your eyes a crack at a time, keeping that same awareness, that same witnessing, same awareness of the stillness and spaciousness within you, the awareness in your heart, the spaciousness within you and all around you. Samadhi is a new state of being for a new time. Thank you for your practice. So, I would ask you first just to share anything that you would wish to share with those that are listening.
Thank you very much for that beautiful guiding. The process of surrender and not resisting was something that came through strongly and was something that has been an important part of my own process. And then when I was watching this Inner Worlds, Outer Worlds video today, a lot of discussion about the importance of not resisting and what that really means and how to really do that. So that was something that, I was, I guess, feeling and, working to feel what that process of surrender really feels like inside and all the different levels of surrender that there are.
It's a very big insight. Right? Yeah. Surrender is a big insight into life, into what we face every day. We're constantly being asked to surrender and we resist. And that resistance, that movement is part of life and it creates karma. And then when we learn to let go, we learn to let go of all that we're holding on to. And we realize there is actually nothing to hold on to. We have created all that. The narrative self has put together a very large story about exactly what it is that we're supposed to have or we're supposed to do in life to be who we are. And of course, it's delusion. It is everything. It's a massive story. And there's also a collective massive story that we have bought into, that society has to be a certain way to exist, when in fact, right now in this great pause, we're given an opportunity for collective love and compassion and kindness to be here and to be our constant state.
Yeah.
Samadhi in itself means absorption in a particular state. So if we can absorb ourselves in fear and anxiety, we can also absorb ourselves in love and stillness. And it's simply a practice that we need to engage in as a collective, that we need to engage in as a human race. We need to take our vibration and our consciousness and awareness to another level. If our current level of consciousness has given us fear and anxiety, then obviously it's no longer working. And if after all this is over, as people say, and we go back to normal, then we are actually going to dive straight back into everything that created this in the first place and all the way that we're running our society and the way that we are thinking collectively. But if we step into a new state and a new time, and going back to what you've said, if we surrender to actually the opportunity that's right in front of us, then as a collective, we will step into an entirely new way of being, and it will be free and it will be liberated. And I think that's where all those different levels of surrender you're talking about are so vital and crucial to an understanding of humanity's consciousness and what's possible. Because if we do go back to normal, then we're saying, here's the little box that we want to exist in, and this is what we call normal. And traditionally, what's normal tends to be what we're comfortable with, and it tends to be a highly dynamic, agitated state, which doesn't involve stillness. If you look at the amount of time, when you consider that stillness and movement make up the entire cosmos, and you look at the amount of time we spend in movement and the amount of time we spend in stillness, you can see right there how out of balance the cosmos in terms of the Earth's consciousness has become. So we have a remarkable opportunity to surrender to a new way of being, to a new state.
We do. Sorry,
go.
Well, I was just going to say, I agree, we do. And yet that personal process of surrender, I mean, we have a collective surrender, but the personal process of surrender is where it starts, right? So for each person to finally accept things the way they are and stop fighting some state that isn't as things are, then you will always be fighting. You will never be at peace. There will never be joy or the condition of joy without dependence on some external thing.
Right.
Yeah. And and that experience you can't have until you start to rest your mind, right?
Correct.
Do enough stillness to let go.
Well, so if we now adventure into the states of samadhi, so as I had suggested at the beginning, I can look at it from 3 or 4 perspectives, actually. They are perspectives that I was trained in, one being the Christian mystic perspective, one being the yogic perspective. So the Christian mystic is primarily through Saint Teresa of Avila, and the yogic one is primarily through Yogananda, and the Buddhist perspective through the Dalai Lama, and also through Vipassana training, and the inquiry method through Ramana Mahashi. And if we look at those ways of samadhi, of the journey to samadhi, we actually see that there are varying degrees of ways to enter samadhi that are in evidence in those paths. So if we take Saint Teresa first, and so as you're listening, if you let your mind come and rest in your heart and you listen with your heart rather than your mind, you may actually find that something I say catches your attention and awareness, and it might catch it in a very beautiful way, like a flower. You might find something flowering, and if that's so, pay attention to it. You might note it down or note it in your consciousness, because it may be a beautiful sign of the way that Holly is suggesting, that our personal path to surrender is quite unique, and we've each got our own resistances to work through. And if you find that little lotus flowering as you're listening, that might be a sign of the way that might assist your surrender. So when I think of Saint Teresa of Avila, I think of something very simple: the surrender to prayer, a prayer of quiet surrender, the kind of union with God that is really the only way to approach the absolute. So in simple terms, Saint Teresa used the power of stillness and the power of surrendering to Jesus, to God. And if you have practiced any prayer or devotional practice to God or source or whatever that word means to you, surrender is a big part of it. It's almost as if you invite Jesus or you invite God into your heart and you surrender to that. Just recently, I had exactly that experience. I was praying and meditating just in this last week, and I felt this enormous devotion to Jesus just fill my heart. There was no reason for it. I hadn't particularly focused on any aspect of the Carmelite centering prayer, which I'd done, which I'd practiced for years. And there was just this quiet surrender and this nectar filled my body for the entire time of the meditation, which was about an hour. And from the meditation, the insight I gained was exactly this, that when we bring a prayer of quiet surrender to our practice, and we open and surrender to the absolute or to the Christ consciousness in us, that can manifest. And this is not unique to Christianity. Tibetan Buddhists describe deities manifesting within them and all the qualities of the deity. And Papaji, before he came to Ramana Mahashi, also had similar experiences with mantra and with Krishna. So these are not unique to the path of Christianity, but they're useful to reflect upon when we're talking about samadhi or absorption. So quiet prayer and surrender, quiet surrender. I often find these days when I enter into meditation, I'm not doing anything. I don't actually practice any techniques anymore. I literally just sit and I open my heart, and that's it. And I sit quietly and still for an hour, sometimes two. I do nothing else. And in that very deeply absorbed state, in that state of quiet surrender, great insight comes. And it's so very gentle. It's the natural aspect, the natural part within ourselves, the natural God-realized self lifts up within. There's nothing you need to do because it was always there. I really love the Heart Sutra. So moving from the Christian mystics through to the yogis and the Tibetan Buddhists and also Theravadan and Mahayanan practice. I love the Heart Sutra that says Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Swaha. There are a number of stages of letting go. We go through a gate of mindfulness, deep mindfulness power into present moment awareness, and then we let go of that, and we let go of that into the silence, and we let go of that again into a deeper absorption, and then we let go of that again. And then signs arise and we let go of those. And light and sound and bliss arises and we let go of that too. We let go, and we let go, and we let go, and we let go again in order to move beyond. So there are these different aspects of samadhi. And so Yogananda was one of my first influences in the path to samadhi. And he had a poem that he used to share that I used to recite when I was very young, 13, 14. And because he advised his students that to reach the transcendental state that we call samadhi, that to be free of the narrative mind, the logical mind, we need to enter the silence and the stillness. And he said, when you meditate upon this poem, it will help you to awaken the whole process of samadhi in you. He used to say, if you visualize yourself in this infinite state of samadhi and identify with it in order to awaken it within you, in order to awaken the lost memory of what it is and who you are in reality, children of the infinite, then you will see right into the core of your being. So as I share this with you, close your eyes and listen. Samadhi by Paramahansa Yogananda. Vanished the veils of light and shade, lifted every vapor of sorrow, sailed away all dawns of fleeting joy, gone the dim sensory mirage, love, hate, health, disease, life and death. All these perished, these false shadows on the screen of duality, the storm of Maya stilled by the magic wand of intuition deep. But ever present, all flowing I everywhere. Planets, stars, stardust, earth, volcanic bursts of doomsday cataclysms, creation's molding furnace. Glaciers of silent X-rays, burning electron floods. Thoughts of all people, past, present, and to come. Every blade of grass, myself, mankind, every particle of universal dust. Anger, greed, good, bad, salvation, lust. I swallowed and transmuted all into a vast ocean of blood of my own one being. Smouldering joy, oft-puffed meditation, blinding my tearful eyes, burst into immortal flames of bliss. Consume my tears, my frame, my all. Thou art I am thou, knowing knower, known as one. Tranquil, unbroken thrill, eternally living, ever new peace, enjoyable beyond imagination of all expectancy, samadhi bliss. Not an unconscious state or mental chloroform without willful return. Samadhi but extends my conscious realm beyond the limits of this mortal frame, to the farthest boundary of eternity, where I, the cosmic sea, watch the little ego floating in me. Mobile murmurs of atoms are heard, the dark earth, mountains, vales, lo, molten liquid, flowing seas, change into vapors of nebulae. Om blows upon the vapors, opening wondrously their veils, oceans stand revealed, shining electrons, till at the last the sound of the cosmic drum vanishes the grosser lights into eternal rays of all-pervading bliss. From joy I came, for joy I live. In sacred joy I melt again. Ocean of mind, I drink all creation's waves. Four veils of solid liquid, vapor and light, lift aright. I, in everything, enters the great myself, gone forever, fitful, flickering shadows of mortal memory. Spotless is my mental sky, below, ahead and high above. Eternity and I, one united ray. A tiny bubble of laughter I am become the sea of mirth itself. So as you listen, Yogananda described samadhi as spiritual ecstasy, as a state of God union that you experience as the ultimate goal of meditation. Much like his poem, it's described as a joyous experience, where you behold the countless worlds, the physical, astral, causal, floating in a vast sea and ocean of joy and bliss. These beautiful experiences of samadhi are God opened to you. We awaken from the delusions of Maya into this eternal bliss. He described two types of samadhi. What is called Savikalpa Samadhi, which is when there is a difference, a state of I existing, where there is a slight separateness, where the life force is drawn completely from the body and your body appears as if dead. And I do remember one time I was in a very deep state of meditation and my wife thought I'd died. She came into a cupboard where I was meditating and I was completely motionless and basically lifeless. I had an out-of-body experience and she came right at that point. She screamed because she thought that I'd passed on. I hadn't, of course, but this type of samadhi is an ecstasy where you perceive the cosmic creation, the cosmic being, and there is still a slight separateness. There is still an awareness of I as being separate from God. And then Nirvikalpa Samadhi is when there's no difference. When in your waking state and your meditative state and your sleeping state, you're one with God. There is constant communion. There is no awareness of any bodily fixation at that point. Even in your ordinary duties as you go about your day, you're aware of God or the presence of God and in an ecstatic state. The ever joyous spirit is alive within you. And in this state, present, past, and future are all gone. And they become revealed as just one state. Deathless. No birth, no death. An awareness of spirit beyond all creation. So this state, the soul does not lose its identity, but it expands into spirit. So the body itself can be quite often in a trance-like state. And this is sometimes where you'll see great souls and masters, really in a state of God union or ecstasy, where they realize the soul and spirit as one. So this state of God union, you're able to engage in all your normal duties without any loss of samadhi. So when we consider the possibilities for that as humanity, the possibilities are endless, infinite. And as Yogananda said, and as many of the monks that I've trained with over the years have said to me, you need to be able to still your body to begin with. Before you still the mind, still the body. If your body is in any way restless, then you will never attain samadhi because the body is not in a state which will allow the mind to be restless. Wherever there is movement, there cannot be stillness. So body energization, dieting, fasting, good exercise, anything that helps the body attain a state of quietude and interiorization is really crucial to being able to attain the samadhi state. One of my experiences several years ago, I had a state of immense Shakti for hours. And following that, I had to get my wife to come and sit with me because I had vision after vision and a powerful shift of Shakti through my being up and down the spine. Because of the length of time and the number of years that I'd practiced Kriya Yoga, this does happen from time to time. It goes through cycles. And so I knew that the Cosmic Mother was giving me the sign that I needed to pull back and just sit quietly for a while. So I spent 3 days in quietude. And then after that, I had a direct experience of something very similar to Yogananda's poem. Experiencing the universe flowing through me, experiencing God as myself, experiencing the heart and mind awake. And it lasted an entire day. And it was truly blissful and beyond all that the mind could ever imagine. So these deep samadhi experiences are possible for all of us when we give the time to them, when we accept that it's time for our world to be in a new state. Now the Buddha and samadhi is a Sanskrit word, means to bring together, samadhi or samadha. So it means, in many ways, it's translated often as concentration or absorption, but it's a particular type of concentration, single-pointedness of mind. So when we concentrate the mind on a single sensation or a single object or a single point of awareness like the breath, we access this state of samadhi or very deep absorption. And again, it takes training. It's a state of consciousness that's beyond dreaming or deep sleep. It's a deep slowing down of all the activity to the point where we become still through single-minded concentration. And in the deepest absorption or samadhi, the self, the narrative self, the chattering self, the self of movement disappears. It actually does vanish. And I've described a number of times I was on a retreat with the Dalai Lama, and I had an experience where this lasted for 3 days, when I was in a very deep state of samadhi or absorption for 3 days, in which the self had vanished. It was pure bliss for 3 entire days. And I was on a 12-day retreat at that time, so it was the perfect place to be. So there are many levels. They're often described as dhyanas or jhanas or yanas in Pali and in Sanskrit. And when we look at the Anapanasati Sutra, which I'd spoken about previously, and we look at the 12 steps of the 16 and the 4 insights, we see that this absorbed or this deep concentration or meditative state is part of that absorption that the Buddha has been talking about, and it's linked directly to Anapanasati. When we look at the Anapanasati, the steps, we go from the long breath. So you can do these with me. You can close your eyes and just consider this for a moment. Since in silence and stillness, it's often easier to appreciate the steps that the Buddha was talking about that link to samadhi. So if you close your eyes and you take a long, we're going to do this quite swiftly, but you'll understand this a little more if you're listening to it with deep and focused, one-pointed attention. You take a long breath and a long breath out. And then the next step, a short breath and a short breath out. And now consider the whole breath. Breathing the whole breath in, right to the point where you pause and then you exhale out. And then a calm breath. Calm whole breath. And a joyful breath. Add joy to that whole breath. And then a breath of calm happiness, so that it becomes subtle. The breath begins to vanish. The breath becomes very beautiful and blissful. Now, you're just aware of the breath and aware of the sign arising in front of you in your mind. You're aware in front of you consciousness, just as it appears to you, shining. Now, sustaining or concentrated in the center of the center of the center of that space. The space itself draws you in. You let go. aware of the changing nature or impermanence of the breath over the sequence, aware of the fading away or vanishing of the breath, aware of the cessation or stopping of the breath, and aware of letting go to what lies beyond. You let go. When you're deep in meditation, the first jhana or dhyana is a great rapture, like a bliss. The thoughts are still. And in the second, you're still filled with that joy or bliss. But deep stillness. And then the bliss fades as you let go. It is replaced by this deep calm, this alertness, a wakefulness. And then you let go of that, and what remains is pure, bright, clear awareness. In the different paths of Buddhism, Samadhi is associated with different things. In Theravada, Samadhi is associated with the jhanas and the states of concentration that bring about the dhyanas or jhanas. It's also associated with right concentration on the Eightfold Path. And in the paramitas, of which there are 6, generosity and the teachings or dharma or morality, patience, then effort or vigor, and then concentration, or dhyana is the 5th one, and then wisdom or prana. The prajna or wisdom is the insight that arises in vipassana. So over the centuries, many Buddhist masters have charted the many subtle levels of samadhi, which is why I'm talking about this in different forms. Some teachers describe samadhi as being in the realms of desire and form and formlessness. So to give you a distinction, if, for example, we're an athlete in a competition or a game, I'm sure all of you have participated in school and sports, and you have that moment where you're so absorbed in that sport or that training that you forget the I, and nothing exists but the game that you're playing. You feel in that flow, like a flow state. This is one type of samadhi called a mundane samadhi, where you're in a state of flow connected to desire, the desire to win or the desire to train. The other state, the desire of form, when we focus on the present moment and we're really strongly focused without distraction or attachment, that is samadhi of form. There's still, as Yogananda said, a lingering awareness of the self. And then when we truly let go, when the self or the I vanishes or disappears, that's the samadhi of formlessness, the realm of no forms. So as I said, there are a variety of ways of looking at samadhi. And this last one I'm going to guide you into is the samadhi of Ramana Mahashi. So Ramana Mahashi spoke about the mind resting in the heart, which was how I began this. So again, I'm going to get you to close your eyes and simply go on a very simple journey with me. Both Yogananda and Ramana spoke about the world being a dream. Absolute reality is eternal, unchanging, self-shining, experiencing itself by the light of its own self-awareness. Papaji practiced japa or mantra to Krishna for 25 years before he met Ramana. His japa practice dissolved his ego, but it wasn't until he met the master, Ramana Mahashi, that he attained full liberation. In mantra, for example, when you practice mantra using a voice, then you're practicing presence. In the second stage, you practice a mantra without using the voice, without saying it out loud. So you enter silence. Then you learn to synchronize the mantra with the breath, which is a state of deep absorption. And eventually the mind, the breath, the heart, and the mantra become one, which is oneness. And still, Papaji did not attain that oneness until he met Ramana Maharshi. So as you're sitting there relaxed with your eyes closed, something deep opens up within you. Something deep happens to you when you tune into Ramana Maharshi or the Buddha or Christ or Krishna, Yogananda, Guan Yin, any of the great Buddha mothers. Deep joy comes. And when you do self-inquiry, when you ask yourself, who am I? Or who is perceiving this? Suddenly the way might appear blocked. You need to be very clear about what it is that you want to inquire about. Who is it that suffers? Who is it that is watching this space? Who is listening? So let's be very clear and simply ask, who am I? Use this inquiry as a light. Don't imagine that you're using your thoughts, that it's mental, that somehow you're using this thought of who am I. It's much deeper than that. The inquiry becomes so clear that it's like looking into a mirror. Right now, in front of you, as you ask, who am I? You see the mind right in front of you. Do you not? The mind in front of you is reflecting back to you exactly who you are in this moment. That is the power of inquiry. The awareness of the space is reflecting back to you exactly what is happening in your awareness right now. If your awareness is confused, then confusion is reflected back to you. And if it's clear and luminous, then clarity and luminescence is reflected and arises back in front of you now. If peace goes away, if joy goes away, let them go. Stay just with the awareness of what is happening. Continue with the inquiry, watching the space, learning about who am I. If there is resistance, if you get the feeling, oh, I can't go on any longer, stay with that. Take the attitude, I will observe whatever happens. Hold just to the awareness. Take the attitude that you will stay with this awareness no matter what happens. And when you stay quiet and still and silent with this awareness, something powerful happens at this point. Stay awake and alert and aware in the silence. Awareness is unborn. It's not an object. It's not something you believe in. You can only be awareness. Be awake. Be alert. Be aware in the silence. There is some sense of being present. There is some sense of participating. But there is a space, a distance, a detachment, a serenity. Space, stillness, serenity. Even if something is moving, even if there is activity, there is a natural stillness that does not participate, that remains untouched. Silence, stillness, serenity. Be the stillness. Be the awareness. Gradually, the me, this person, is merging with the awareness, like a wave into the ocean. Both are water. Both are the ocean. The wave gently melts into the ocean. Easefully, peacefully. A surrendering of yourself as a person to yourself as the truth. And where does this happen? In the heart. The mind is gently melting into the heart. And where are you? Nowhere. And what is there? Nothing. Emptiness. Stay with the emptiness as awareness. Stay aware of the space and the silence and the stillness. In the spacious awareness, there is joy. There is infinite space. There is indescribable, nameless, timeless awareness. Spacious awareness. Infinite awareness. Allow the space to rise within you through direct experience. Allow spacious awareness to rise within you through direct experience. Allow the stillness, silence, and spacious awareness to arise within you. You're merely witnessing, observing, casually, passively, with your attention inside your heart. It's natural and easeful. Stay as that. Stay as that pure awareness. Be that space within the heart. Be the pure awareness. Be that. Be a silent, still, and spacious awareness within the heart. Now gently, very subtly, bring your awareness and intention to the space within you and the space all around you. Be aware of the depth of awareness, of silence, stillness, spacious awareness. Be aware of any insights that occurred, anything you'd like to take note of. Slowly open your eyes as if it is a new greeting of the dawn. At first light, a new day, a new state. Slowly, with your eyes open, be aware of the space within you and all around you. And thank you all so deeply for your practice and for sharing in this beautiful journey that we're all taking together to Samadhi and beyond. Love and blessings always.
Thank you once again, Stephen. I didn't realize I was going to have such a deep meditation right here on Facebook. So that was a first. It's exciting.
Oh, that's very exciting. And I'm so happy for all of those people that are listening, because they will no doubt share in what's coming through in your words and your presence from that. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, thank you for everybody who's watching, who's here. That question of who am I, which, you know, we've been exploring this week in our core group, in our conversations together, is, and I watched that beautiful film, Nani, it's probably how it's said, yeah, on Ramana's life. And as I shared on our group, that was a question that I have a very early memory of asking when I was 6, asking my mom. And I remember turning to her and saying, who am I? And we were in the car. I mean, I actually know exactly where we were. We were right near the Self-Realization Fellowship in Pacific Palisades, right in that area. We were driving by, and I remember turning to her, and she looked at me very quizzically, and, you know, said something like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, no, who am I? And I remember like grabbing my skin and going, but who am I? I don't understand. And so that question, which is such a deep question, and to have the insight that that question alone can take you into oneness, into samadhi, is really profound. Fully understand that landed in my lap this week really deeply. And during the meditation, at one point, fairly early on, I think you said something about, you know, dropping the analytical voice of the answer. And I realized that I was trying to think my way to the answer, and the error of that way. Such an error. There is no answer to be found in thinking of any of this.
Correct.
Yeah. And
that's a wonderful, profound realization to have, that there's no answer to be found in the thinking of it. That's a really beautiful.
Yeah. And I find what's interesting about this, you know, because now we've been doing these explorations together in ROV and meditation for, you know, long time now, almost a year. And I know that, right? Like, I know that there isn't an answer to be found in thinking, and yet I still fell into the trap, right? Like, how funny is that you can know it, and you still have to keep reminding yourself, if you're where I am, you know, if you're still in this place.
Sure. You do keep reminding yourself. I think that's why, you know, in Ajahn Brahm's book, he talks about reminding the mind 3 times only. I like that. I like the way he suggests, you know, that we just remind ourselves 3 times. If you do it too many times, then there becomes a habitual, that just becomes yet another trap of the mind. If you do it 3 times, then the mind wakes up, and you're reminded, for example, at that point of transition, when you're observing or witnessing in the meter and it is not truly formed, and you remind yourself 3 times to go back to the beautiful breath. It's a beautiful way to see that, because we do need reminders. I think in a lot of his teachings, and in any one of the great masters' teachings, they are constantly saying we do need reminders. We need reminders to be still. We need reminders to know how to still the body. You know, we do need these reminders. I mean, this great pause that we're in at the moment is a collective reminder of spending time with our families, of acting with kindness, of looking after people in our communities, of looking after our earth. You know, it is, we need these reminders. I'm hoping it doesn't come in threes. I'm hoping this reminder comes as one. But we need to take notice. If we can take notice the first time, then we don't need two other reminders.
Yeah.
So it's...
Yeah. I mean, the beautiful thing about that, even just in this experience with the meditation, was when I reminded myself and then dropped into my heart, that was what did it. That was how I got out of that trap and, really got into this very deep place. So yeah, I mean, the trickster mind.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And it's lovely to watch the expressions on your face and the expression in your voice as you tell what has happened in that experience. That's a lovely expression of awareness and the insights that we gain from rather than the story of the meditation, it's the insight of the meditation. We can all too easily get bound in the experience of, I experienced this, I saw this, I heard this. But if we look deeply at the insight in the meditation and how that, so next time, if that insight assists you to go directly into the heart and not get caught in the mind, then that is indeed a really profound and direct realization. It's a really deep insight.
Yeah, they also talked today on this same film about thought as a sense, as a, and I think, most of us think about the traditional senses, hearing, sight, taste, etc. And I hadn't heard that described, to perceive thought as a sense. But contemplating that, I don't see why it wouldn't be. I mean, if it's something we're perceiving with our consciousness as we perceive other hearing, tasting, sensing.
And for sure, again, going back to Ajahn Brahmi, he does describe the five senses and the sixth being the mind. And we do, I mean, if we talk about what you'd suggested at the beginning, that we telepathically link this broadcast when it wasn't working at first to go live on Facebook, then there's certain times we're aware the phone rings and it's your mom. There are certain times when we know there is that mind that operates in a much more infinite sense than we give it credit for. That is that sixth sense that they're speaking about, the sixth sense of thought and the remarkable potential of thought, but also the remarkable way that thought can bind us, because we are convinced that all the thoughts we think about ourselves are real. And that is a mighty thought.
It's a great mistake.
Yeah, when we consider that we have been doing that since we're very small, and we're convinced that everything we're told and experience and our histories and the way that people describe us and the way we're put in different jobs, positions, that we can do this, but we can't do that. This is a tremendous bondage, all that comes through thought. And so it is both the great binder and the great liberator. When I was on retreat in the Himalayas many years ago, the Swami that I sat at the feet of gave me the name Nirband, which means unbound or not bound. And he said, that's who you are, free, a free space. Nirband Sham. That was the actual full name. And that means an unbound space. Sham is space. Nirband is unbound. And I thought that's stayed with me, of course, for 30 odd years or more. And it's a very wonderful reminder every time I go into meditation. I'm reminded that I am Nirband Sham, the unbound space of being, the unbound space of awareness. And it's a beautiful intention and thought to have for anybody when we
should all experience that. Like to be unbound. In fact, I think, you know, feeling trapped as a human is one, you know, for me, when I feel most, you know, frustrated as a body on this earth, it's because I feel bound, and it doesn't feel good to feel bound, right? We want to be unbound. Probably.
Very definitely. That's at the core of our existence is liberation, and that is where we're moving to. And if we see everything that happens to us as something we've contracted to move towards that liberation, then we might see all of life in a different light. Yeah.
Well, maybe it's 7:30. We've taken an hour and a half of your time. Perhaps that's a beautiful place to end it, in the unbound state.
It's always a great honor. Always a great honor and a privilege. And same for anybody that's listening. If you listen and find a little treasure somewhere in what we're sharing, then you truly bless me. And I'm deeply humbled by all of your presence.
It is a great honor to have you here with your gifts of wisdom, the meditations. I always learn so much listening to you. So thank you for your time and for your gifts and for your sharing, really.
Thank you, too. Love and blessings, everybody.
Love and blessings to you all. We'll see you next time. All right. Take care. Thank you.